20,000 years ago, the Earth basically tried to wipe us out. And I don't mean slowly, I mean it just got cold, like brutally, catastrophically, impossibly cold. Massive sheets of ice, a mile thick, covered most of North America and Europe. Sea levels dropped 400 feet. Entire ecosystems just collapsed. Most large animals went extinct. And somehow, a small group of fairly weak, embarrassingly slow, mostly hairless primates not only survived all of that, they thrived. Us. The same species that today complains when the office thermostat drops below 70 degrees figured out how to survive in conditions that would kill most of us within hours. So how did they actually do it? First, you need to understand what they were actually up against. This wasn't just bad winters. This was cold, all the time, for thousands of years. Summers barely warmed up. Plants barely grew. Food was almost non-existent. And the animals that did survive out there? Enormous. Woolly mammoths, cave bears, giant cave lions, predators so massive that a single one could wipe out an entire group of hunters without breaking a sweat. Wind alone could kill you. Exposed skin froze in minutes. And yet somehow, during all of this, humans didn't just survive. They actually spread across the entire planet. So what was their secret? The first answer is fire. Now, I know that sounds obvious. Of course, they had fire. But most people don't realize just how completely fire changed everything. Fire wasn't just warmth. It was the difference between life and death in ways that go way beyond just staying warm. Cooked food unlocks way more calories than raw food. When you cook meat, your body can extract dramatically more energy from it. That extra energy went straight to the brain. Bigger brains, better thinking, better survival. Fire also hardened wooden spears, making them sharper. It kept predators away at night so people could actually sleep without being eaten. It preserved meat through the cold. And here's the part nobody really talks about. Fire created community. When you have a fire, you gather around it. You sit together for hours. And when ancient humans sat together for hours, they talked, they planned, they shared information. They taught each other skills. They told stories. The campfire might honestly be the most important social technology in all of human history. It forced our ancestors to sit still long enough to actually communicate with each other in ways that mattered. But fire alone wasn't enough. The second answer is clothing. And not just throwing an animal skin over your shoulders. Actual engineered, sophisticated clothing. About 170,000 years ago, humans figured out how to turn animal hides into real garments. And this was not simple. You had to remove the skin, scrape off all the fat and flesh, treat the hide so it didn't rot, cut it into shapes, and then sew those shapes together. Sew them together with needles. Our ancestors invented sewing needles made from sharpened animal bones. The oldest ones ever found are over 50,000 years old. Let that sink in. Someone sat down and figured out how to sharpen a piece of bone into something thin enough to thread, just so they could make fitted clothing that actually kept them warm. That is not instinct. That is straight up engineering. And the clothing they made was actually sophisticated, layered, fitted. Some of it was even decorated with beads. These people were literally developing fashion while fighting to stay alive in one of the harshest environments in Earth's history. The third answer is shelter. In some areas, people lived in caves. But caves came with a pretty serious problem. Other things also wanted to live in caves. Cave bears, cave lions, cave hyenas. Moving into a cave meant first convincing something enormous and terrifying to leave. So when caves weren't available, humans built their own shelters. And here's where it gets genuinely incredible. In parts of Ukraine and Russia, archaeologists found the remains of circular structures built entirely from mammoth bones. Hundreds of individual bones and tusks arranged into structures over 20 feet wide, covered with hides to block the wind. Someone looked at a dead mammoth and thought, I can build a house out of that. That's not just survival. That's architecture. But honestly, the biggest answer to how humans survived the Ice Age is the one that separates us from every other species that tried and failed. We adapted mentally. When things got worse, humans didn't just endure, they invented solutions. When prey animals moved, humans followed them thousands of miles across frozen landscapes. When one food source disappeared, they found another. When one tool stopped working, they built a better one. About 40,000 years ago, something shifted in human technology. Tools suddenly became dramatically more sophisticated. Blades got thinner, spears became more aerodynamic. And then someone invented the spear thrower, a device that extended the human arm and let people throw a spear with twice the force and twice the accuracy. Under enormous pressure, humans just kept thinking their way to better solutions. And then they did something that absolutely no other animal in the history of life on Earth has ever done. They made art. In caves across Europe and Asia, ancient humans painted the walls with images of the animals around them. Mammoths, horses, bison, cave lions. Some of these paintings are so detailed and so beautiful, they look like they could have been made last week. The most famous are in Lascaux, France. Over 600 paintings, created over 17,000 years ago, by people who were fighting every single day just to stay alive. Why would someone struggling to survive stop and paint a beautiful horse on a cave wall? Because humans have always needed more than just survival. They needed meaning, stories, beauty, something that made the struggle worth it. That need to create something meaningful, even when everything is falling apart, is the most uniquely human thing about us. It's what no other species has ever shown, and it's what kept people mentally alive through thousands of years of brutal conditions that would have destroyed almost anything else. The Ice Age ended about 11,000 years ago. The ice pulled back, temperatures rose, and those humans walked out of the cold and into a warmer world and immediately invented farming. Because of course they did. Tonight, when you turn up your heat because you're a little chilly, just remember, your ancestors survived conditions you literally cannot imagine. With fire and bone needles and houses made of mammoth bones and hand-painted cave art. And they did it together. Which means the most powerful survival tool your ancestors ever had wasn't a spear or a fire or a fur coat. It was each other. That's the part of this story that gets me every single time. These people had nothing by our standards. No heating, no grocery stores, no weather app, just raw intelligence, cooperation, and an absolutely unbreakable will to figure it out. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. It genuinely means everything. Hit that subscribe button if you learned something new today. We drop new videos every week about the most incredible stories hiding in human history. And drop a comment below. What do you want us to cover next? How did ancient humans deal with injuries? What did they actually eat every single day? Or something completely different that's been living rent-free in your head? Tell us down below. We read every single one. See you in the next one.